Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hi from the Himalayas. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath. And today, everybody, welcome to Nepal and the Himalayas. I'm here with a big group, live. We call it live because live is Zoom. If you want to join us on Zoom, you can. You email her, Mara, at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. She gives you the codes to join us on Zoom. We call that live. But if you're with us in person, which happens sometimes, we call this live. So welcome everybody live. Say Harry Bo. Hello. We got a good crew here trekking through the Himalayas. Today was the sketchiest part, I think, of the trek so far. Yeah. First of all, it was the most breathtaking part of the trek, wasn't it? Yeah. Rivers and like canyons and waterfalls and views of Annapurna South. And then all of a sudden we had to hike up these stairs that went on forever, like the stairway to heaven. And then when you made it up the stairs, it was flat. I'm like, okay, good, it's flat. And then you see like a landslide that happened, and they made a trail through the landslide. And I know I'm not doing well for selling next year's trip, but it's got like about a foot of a path. Who had to make that path? What boss had to say, okay, I want you to go up there. You see where that landslide is? Make a little path on there to get to the other side and make it reasonably safe. So we're on this 1 foot path. And then we crossed the gigantic footbridge, suspension bridge. And I will say, last year, I think I almost cried and wet my pants. This year, I just said, Hare Krishna, and I just walked straight ahead. Special props to Jai Subhadra and Lagima City, who are with us from New Jersey, who are stepping way out of their comfort zone, and they crossed the bridge. No sweat. You guys are crossing
Yeah, they were cool. I thought they were gonna be scared. We've been talking for days about this, and they're like, I am so scared of heights.
Because it's not just a long suspension bridge. It's a super high, like you're crossing, in the old days of they used to do the tightrope walking from the Twin Towers. Didn't they do that? Yeah, I think they used to do that in the Twin Towers. It's one of those things if you look down, and I'm realizing I don't need any more stress in my life. Why look down? Look straight ahead. And that's sort of like a good little takeaway itself. Why look down? Why look back? Walk straight ahead. So today's Q&A day, if you're new to this, welcome to the show. It's when people write in questions, but it's special today because not only do we have questions, but we're going to have live people come up and ask us some questions. And you get to meet the people who are traveling with us. What do you think about that, Mara?
I think it's a great idea.
Who should we have first?
Let's have Linda ask the first question.
You may know Linda. She's a regular Zoomer, and she's here. And welcome to the show, Linda. Stick your beautiful face right in the microphone. You got to get closer. You got to get closer.
So my question today is, why is it considered good karma to be born into material wealth when you're trying to detach from it during your life? Why wouldn't it be better to be born into poverty, but have a blissful, detached mind?
Thank you, Linda. That's
a good question.
And you are from, where are you from, Linda?
Florida.
Oh, Florida, duh. What part of Florida? St. Petersburg. Great question. good luck's always better than bad luck. Falling in love is better than getting your heart broken. Finding $1 on the ground is better than losing $1, whereas finding $1,000 is better than losing $1,000. That's the material world. It's called good luck and bad luck. In bhakti, we're trying to see beyond good luck and bad luck. So you're right. In the biggest picture of the thing, we see that there's a benevolent God and that whatever we get is for our benefit. And I'm sure, Linda, that you know a lot of people with, say, a lot of resources who are ruining their lives, right? There are people that sometimes their good fortune ruins them. Sometimes their fame ruins them. Sometimes people are born very beautiful. That ruins them. Sometimes when people have a lot of good opulence, whatever it is, they say, the word for, we say, the Bhagavad Gita or message of the Bhagavat or Srimad Bhagavatam. That word Bhagavat or Bhagavan, it means one who has all 6 opulences. And the 6 opulences, Mara, are hot seat.
Power, strength.
So
strength.
So Bhagavan has all. If someone is God, they have all strength.
Fame,
all famous.
renunciation,
Ready to walk away. I'll give you $1 million if you do this. Not interested. That ability to walk away. That's another opulence.
beauty,
All beautiful.
wealth,
All wealth.
and
Forget one. Wealth, beauty, strength.
no, I said strength. That was the first one.
Wealth, beauty,
Intelligence?
strength, all knowledge. Yes.
Knowledge, yeah.
Okay. So Bhagawan is the being that has all of those in full. And we sometimes get a little spark of that. Sometimes we're sort of beautiful or sometimes very beautiful. But what is the beauty of the material world? It ends. We end up old and shriveled or disfigured, whatever. Our beauty, our wealth, it's all tiny. But sometimes we run with it. We run with that beauty. We run with that wealth. We run with that strength. And sometimes if we have a lot of wealth, beauty, strength, intelligence, etc., people suck up to us. They kiss up to us to try to be our friend. And a person who has such a thing, they never quite know who's their friend and who just wants something from them. It's actually a precarious situation. So sure, in the material world, to have those things can also be very, very problematic. In bhakti, we're not trying to, do some, what do I call it? Metaphysical bargaining with the gods. Because within Hinduism, there's a lot of, I'll buy a gem or I'll worship Ganesh. I'll try to overcome some malefic planet in my astrology. There's a whole science of it. I'll do some puja to appease a god. Krishna, he just talks that down from the get-go. He says, from the highest planet of the material world to the lowest planet, ultimately, they're all temporary. Now, a lot of us in this, especially born in the Western world, we've been in situations where we've had lots of wealth or been around people with lots of wealth. And then also we might have had destitute times of our life. Oftentimes, having the wealth or not having the wealth didn't make us either happier or sadder. It was just sort of our state of mind in those situations. So, and on our spiritual trajectory, the same thing is true. Sometimes wealth can take us away from our spiritual practice. Sometimes it can enhance our spiritual practice. It's not really what you got. It's what you do with what you got. And if we are blessed with good fortune, fame, beauty, strength, all the opulences, then the best thing that we could do with them is be very, very humble, understand it's not ours. It's not because I'm so genius and clever and, enlightened, but they are a gift. And when we get a gift, we have to give back with that gift. Truthfully, with wealth, it's way they say that's how you purify wealth. If you're one, and some people just can make a lot of money. They're just good at it. They could take this. I'm going to sell this. This is the miracle mug. You like this mug? It's the miracle mug. Everyone's buying the. Do you remember when I was young? Anyone old enough to remember when they were selling? Who's going to guess what I'm going to say? Pet rocks. Pet rocks. They were selling pet rocks, and everybody bought a pet rock. You don't have to feed it. It's not messy. But some clever person figured out how to sell a pet rock, and people bought it. So if you can make a lot of money, then you give some of that money in charity, and that purifies wealth. because ultimately we have to get out of the consciousness. It's all about me. So it's not what you got, it's what you do with what you got. And you're right. The biggest thing is we trust that my life is in divine hands. Krishna, what do you want from me? Everything is yours. And that's how we sort of purify ourselves of that opulence. But you're right. It's not necessarily good or bad. Thank you, Linda. Linda.
All right.
Pet rock.
Let's see. Jen Hunt from New Jersey. Next question.
Jen Hunt from New Jersey. Now, Jen Hunt.
All right, that would have been bad.
Jen Hunt, I've known for how many years?
5.
5
Six?
years, maybe 6 years at least. And she came to India with me
In 2017.
2017, then again 2019. And now she's in Nepal with me.
Yeah.
And she's been to yoga classes with me in New Jersey. So welcome.
Thank you.
And she's a great lady. We all love her. You got to
So-
come right in on this.
So I guess, thinking back to India,
Right in.
thinking back to India 2017, that's really kind of my question, because I came to India actually
Back here.
Right.
You're muted.
We're
No,
back.
We're
No,
back.
we're good.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Don't touch that cord.
I'm not touching that cord. All right. So I came, I kind of stumbled onto the bhakti path, and I find myself incredibly attracted to the spiritual teachings, kirtan, japa, and the association of just all of the wonderful people that are on this trip, and really anybody I've ever met through any of the programs. But still, I don't necessarily see initiation in my future. And I was wondering if you had any advice for somebody like me.
Great question, Jen Hunt. Jen. It's a good question. Jen's got two older kids. She's been married for how many years? You're a chemical engineer. Your husband's a chemical engineer, or he's retired or something. Yeah. There is it plays golf. There's I don't know if I said this yesterday in the podcast or not, but when there's a reservoir of delicious spring water, you can get a cup of it, you can get a bathtub of it, or you can get a swimming pool of it, because the reservoir fills all needs. So with the bhakti path, there's no ask to get initiation in one sense. If you're getting something out of this, that's a wonderful thing. Get what some people just like, I like to be around people that like just some good, clean fun. And if you hang out with us, like this trip, what is it? It's a good, clean, fun adventure. The conversation is high, right? The food is delicious. Our satsangs are enlightening because we talk about enlightening things. We like good music. Just to hear Janeshwar sing, and to hear him play these musical instruments, it's just like high level, even pleasure, but it's spiritual pleasure. Isn't that the perfection of life anyway? Who wants to go to a degraded party? Who wants to have degraded conversation, right? So if you feel like not only am I not going to get initiated, but I got a whole nother world. And what you do is you break away and you find some people that I'm not even saying all devotees, because you're going to find a tribe. We got a whole wisdom of sages tribe, so to speak. You find your tribe that are like-minded, that talk your talk, that you can bro down, feel comfortable with, that you can reveal your heart to, that, you can accept their embrace and give it an embrace. And you hang out with them as much as you can, as much as you want to. You take as much from the reservoir as you want. Now, there's one little caveat. It's slightly addictive. It's slightly addictive. And you might find yourself coming back for more and more cups of water. It's the Krishna upsell. Krishna upsells himself. He's so beautiful. That's the problem with Krishna. He's so damn beautiful. There's even a statement by one of the great masters. Like if you love material life and you love material experience and you love your business and if you love all that stuff, be very, very careful. Never go to the banks of the Yamuna and see the sweet, adorable Krishna. Because once you look in his eyes, it will destroy your material life. It's true. But we love you and we're happy you're here. Haribo. Jen Hump.
All right. Next question, Regina from Germany.
Regina from Germany, from Hamburg. Welcome all the Germans.
Hi. Hello, everybody. So my question is, I've had an amazing week here in Nepal and I feel really inspired. So how do I keep this connection when I don't have a bhakti community in Hamburg?
Very good. Regina from Hamburg. I know it's not only that, there's people from all over the world. There's people here from Anchorage. There's people, where people listening to the show are peppered all over the world. And we always say association is everything. The people that you hang out with on a regular basis influence our heart and our mind. So we want to keep that. And truthfully, it's one of the 3 reasons we started the podcast, because sometimes you get some inspiration, you come on a pilgrimage. Like we didn't know each other well. You came to a class I did in Hamburg, and then you just decided, I'm going to sign up for this. I always wanted, Nepal's been on a bucket list. And then you get a taste for chanting and for the philosophy and the lifestyle and the dynamics we have with each other. And then all of a sudden, how can I get more of this? And that's one of the reasons why we did the podcast, is so you can associate with the podcast and associate with the philosophy. Truthfully, all the ancient books of yoga speak that if you really want to get this stuff, it's not just an immersion, although the immersion gives you a sweet taste. It's the regular of hearing of transcendental knowledge. Because what it does is it starts to change the way you see the world. That's why you got to be careful what news channels you watch. You got to be careful what podcasts you listen to. You got to be careful, who you're hanging out with in the workplace, who you date, who you're married. You got to be careful of those things, because it's starting to create your consciousness. So the podcast is there, and now it's great because you can, binge listen to old episodes. And also, as you start to refine your taste, some people may just know the podcast. You'll start to hear from a lot of the people we invite on the podcast that we really love: Raghunath Swami, Sachinandana Maharaj, Chaitanya Charan. These are, people we have on regularly. They have their own YouTube channels, or people film them, and you can go to. This is the joy and the glory of the information age. Otherwise, there's so much nonsense information out there. You can find horrible things on the internet, on YouTube channels, or you can find really wonderfully sweet things that can transform your life and help us become from caterpillars to butterflies. So I would say associate whenever you can. That's why we do retreats as well. Come to Italy when we're going to Italy. And I'm looking at the people on the board. A lot of people have traveled with me all over the world. And but if you can't do that, that's okay. Then you listen online and you hear on a regular basis. And what's going to happen, like Jen was saying, you take little bits of what you like and you apply them to your life, and it makes the life sweeter. But rearranging the people we have in our life on a regular basis is a big deal. And I've been practicing it for a long time. I like the fact that whenever I pick up my phone and I say hello, I'm always saying, Harry Ball, how are you? All glories to Lord Krishna. Because it's just like I've arranged my life in such a way that I'm dealing with people who are on a spiritual trajectory, and it's nice. Might sound fanatical. Does that sound fanatical, Jen? Oh, thank you, Jen.
Sweet.
She's very balanced and sweet, isn't she?
She is. That was a good answer.
Joshua Love from Alaska. has a
Joshua Love. Is that really your last name, Love? No, it's
What?
not.
That's so cool.
Is it Love? We've got
It
another.
is.
We've got
Did you
another.
change it to Love, or your
You
parents?
changed it to Love.
No, my stepfather's last name was Love.
That's cool.
All right.
Yeah, my middle name is Deva.
You're kidding.
No.
All right, get
For
low.
real.
Get low. So that's your face right
Oh,
there.
there we go. Thank you, Prabhu. So I own a yoga studio and teach yoga up in Anchorage, Alaska. As you've already said, we have somebody from Anchorage. That would be me.
What's the name of the studio? Let's give a
Anchorage.
shout out to Anchorage.
I know we're not too smart, so we just Anchorage Yoga. That's the studio. It's
Clever
easy.
name.
So how do we bake bhakti into a hatha yoga studio? How do we bring this to my students and our students, our sangha?
Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
How do you add there's a lot of people who listen to the podcast who are yoga teachers, and they've got a taste for bhakti, and they figure like, okay, how can I and they're leaders of a community. There's like a big community they do. It's the biggest, maybe the only or the biggest yoga community, yoga studio in Anchorage. Yeah, it's impressive what they've got going on. I didn't know anything. I know nothing about Alaska. If you want to know the God honest truth, it's yes. Or they have polar bears. They do. They actually have polar bears. So that's where I'm at with Alaska. But he's here and he's wants to fit. How do you add bhakti to that? First of all, I love in a yoga class is chanting. And I'm not a great chanter. You can keep it super simple, especially because oftentimes they're not coming for chanting. Sometimes they only have an hour and a half to do a workout, But what I find is when I add chanting, even a little to the beginning and a little to the end, even if sort of like they don't like it, they get it quick. I give them just enough where they get a little. If they don't like it, it's over quick. Don't go into this whole long kirtan like your Krishna Das. Just go give them a few mantras, and I can help you with that too. Just a few mantras, because there's something powerful in the sound of mantras. And I will say that I've had students come up to me who are new to yoga, and they're like, I don't know about I've never heard those mantras before, but I started crying. I can't explain it. I don't know why I cried, because there's something powerful in sound. And it's inexplicable, but that's what mantras are. These Vaishnava mantras, the codified sound that goes beyond the layers of the mind and cuts right through and goes right to the heart. So I'd say add mantras in the beginning and the end of class. And you could even say, and by the way, I tell this to my teacher trainees too, like they get all nervous. They're like, wait a second, now I got to give a Dharma talk. It's like, what am I supposed to be, like the Dalai Lama? I don't know anything. You don't have to be the Dalai Lama to give a Dharma talk. Read one verse that really speaks to you from the sacred literature. And that's it. Here's a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Dehinosmin yata dehi komaram yovanam jara, right? As the embodied soul continuously passes from childhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly enters a new body at the time of death. Those who are not wise are not bewildered by such a change. What do you think about that? So you say something, you don't have to even comment on it. You're just reading what Krishna's been saying, and great philosophers and sages have been saying forever, and let that rest with somebody's mind. And all of a sudden, without any pretense, you're giving something very significant to that class. You're making the yoga class more than let's breathe and stretch. Let's breathe, stretch, and sweat. You're actually adding the weightiness of the yoga culture to that class without coming off as I'm the guru here, I'm the Swami here. You're just like, hey, I'm just reading the Bhagavad Gita. Let's sit with this. What do you think about this? One verse, Yoga Sutras, right? Or Bhagavad Gita, I would say, but something that really speaks to you, something that's sort of relevant. You know what is a great Bhagavad Gita verse? From wherever the mind wanders, due to its unsteady and flickering nature, one must quickly withdraw it and keep it back under the control of the self. Great verse. The mind is a friend or an enemy, depending on how it's trained. These are great verses. Yeah. Okay. Is that useful? That's what I would do. And of course, to the degree, Joshua's great. He's a great guy having on this trip. To the degree that I am spiritually connected, it's going to seep out of me. Where sometimes people are just going to notice, like, he's different. Something's different in the last few months with him. So to the degree that I'm God conscious, and to the degree that I'm in total illusion and Maya, my students will know. They'll pick up on it subtly. Like kids know how their parents behave. That's why it's really important when you're in a position of leadership or if you're like a parent or a leader or a boss, sometimes character is such a big deal because people know, your dependents know. And especially in yoga culture, we're kind of trying to keep a high bar. How's that answer? Joshua Love. Love you, Joshua.
All right. I think Vicky from Cyprus has a question. For
What? Vicky from Cyprus, she's become famous on here for her. You might follow her on Instagram. She's famous for, we gave her carte blanche. She whirls. She's a professional whirler. Come inside.
Haribo.
Come close to the mic
Okay.
right there.
This month, all my bhakti dreams came true, and I'm very grateful to Raghunath Prabhu and Wisdom of the Sages and Mera. And yeah, all I want now is to be locked in Vrindavan in Krishna Balaram Mandir because I fell in love with Radha Krishna and Radha Kund Govardhan, and I want just to dance in front of the deities and stay in Vrindavan like forever.
She's fully lost her material mind. You picked up on that now, haven't you? Okay, go ahead.
So my question is, how can someone stay in the holy Dham, reside in Vrindavan, and are there any programs? Yes, are there any programs?
Are there any Okay. How do you stay living in these holy places? Is that your question? Good question. First of all, I want to say Vicky's been a real pleasure on this trip. She's out of this world. We can't control her. She's floating away. She's flying away. We're grabbing her by the ankle to pull her back from floating away like a kite without a string. And she's going through incredible stress right now. Her family home was just bombed in the Ukraine. And so we've been praying for her. Her family's been in hiding. And it's not like she's oblivious to the pain, but she's going. One thing I think it's safe that everybody says on this trip with her, she's serious about her spiritual life. She's not putting on a show. She's not doing it for anybody but Krishna. And we feel your integrity, Prabhu. I just want to say that. We feel your integrity. And it's not like she's just, I'm going to forget about my parents and dance. That's not where she's at. She's deeply internalized the material world, we feel. And she is feeling that pain also. We see her in moments of deep sadness too. But she's understanding that there is a benevolent God in control that has a greater plan. And sometimes the greater plan can't be seen when the problems are right in front of our faces. So she got such a good experience in Vrindavan. She wants to figure out how she can stay in Vrindavan. By the way, and she asked this question because there's a warning about moving to these holy places. And the warning is that I think it's pretty easy to understand. I know in myself, I never leave India without saying, that was an incredible time. I always want to go back. But it's only because I've been training myself to get out and not stay and not overstay my welcome, so to speak. If you really go with a divine purpose, there's a tendency in our material conditioning to take wonderful things, wonderful people, wonderful places for granted. You guys, live, you agree with that? We can take things for granted. We can think that divine people are ordinary. Divine places are ordinary. We can start to bring in our bad habits of complaining, finding fault, criticize. It's problematic. And when we go to these holy places, it's like if me, Jen Hunt, Linda, and Mara play poker for pennies and I win 10 pennies, right? And if I lose 10 pennies. When you go to these holy places, you're playing with $5,000 chips, it's like going to Vegas and you're playing with big chips and you bring your material conditioning to these holy places and you lose big. You make offenses in Vrindavan, you make offenses in holy places. So we go under the guidance of teachers and we go with the blessings of teachers. We don't barge into these places. We go and we instruct us, how can I serve when I'm here? What can I do? I'm not there as a sightseer or as a tourist. We're led in, and the Dham guru shows us, how do I bow? How do I pray? How do I eat? How do I respect? Right? So there's a saying, 3 days or 3 years, right? So you can stay for 3 days and you go, unless you have some serious service to do. Because once the mind and I know, because I went there when I was a new devotee, and once the mind gets agitated, how does the mind get agitated? I'll tell you how mine gets agitated. I get diarrhea, and then I get agitated. I was like, oh, or I get diarrhea. Mara's like, what are you talking about? Or I get sick, or, I got, like, they said I had malaria. I don't think I had malaria, but I was like on my back in pain, cold sweat, fever. And what do I start doing? I start being upset with everything and the situation and the place. And I bring these offenses to sacred places. I'm lucky I've been allowed back by a divine welcome, by divine forces. But you got to be careful, because it's really easy when the body is not feeling well to exert back to material consciousness. So to be in a holy place like that, I would say you need to have teachers that give you a service there. And it's not easy, because these holy places are very powerful, and they can sometimes crack our egos quick, almost quicker than we want them cracked. I saw it happen to Rich Mancuso. He had 3 days. Rich Mancuso, he had 3 days of just being stunned, walking around Vrindavan like, oh, yeah. And then by day 4, he was going, I was like, I truthfully, Rich, and Rich has got a question next. I was like, I made a mistake. I brought him. It wasn't quite. You know what? Because I don't just bring people I don't really know very well to these places. And when I bring them, like Jen Hunt came on pilgrimage, but generally I have a whole plan. I bring people to a place like, I ease them in to when they get to Vrindavan, because Vrindavan can be very intense. It's not an ordinary place. It's not a holy place. It's not a tirtha. Like India is famous for holy tirthas. Tirthas are places you go and they purify your consciousness. They say that Vrindavan is a Dham, and Dham means, like we get the English word domicile. It means it's like a vortex to the spiritual world. It's like a chip of the spiritual world somehow mysteriously, magically planted on the planet. And if you're not ready for it, it can really shake up your world. So I'm glad you came, Rich, though. He transcended and got a higher taste. You want to come? Rich has been a real blessing to have on the traveling with. He's a great guy.
Yeah, love it.
Welcome, Rich. We used to call him the evil golfer. Now we changed him to the pious golfer.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mara. Just to your point about—
Stay right in the mic, brother.
Sorry, just to your point about all of that, like going to Vrindavan, and when you have such a strong experience, and I think a lot of us here have had this experience because we're talking amongst ourselves, and we know we're going to go back to what we call the real world. What is your suggestion on like how to approach our people in that world? You know what I mean? Because it's like we're going to walk in and it's going to be like, hey, or we're going to walk in and we say Haribol, and then we're not going to get that response, and we're going to be like, what time's Kirtan tonight? And they're going to be like, what? You know what I mean?
Great question. Great question. Rich Mancuso from Manhattan, New York. What do you do for a living, Rich?
I work in television and film production.
How come I didn't know that? You work in television, film, and production. All right. Any shows I know? Probably a lot of. I don't even know any show. I don't watch it. Okay, I know Narcos. I watched. Yes.
I worked on Men in Black many years.
Men in Black. Okay.
You remember that movie?
I didn't see it, but it was a famous movie. I didn't see those. I didn't see it. I didn't see any of the Die Hards. I bet it's a very popular movie, and that's
top 100 person movies. So if you haven't seen those,
I know. He worked in Men in Black and Die Hard. That's impressive. Prabhu, welcome. That's a great question. What do you do? So he's got this whole regular real world life. And then he gets like this bhakti, blast. And how do you incorporate that? You know what I do? I don't say anything. like it's like, how do you explain it? How do you explain what we're doing to sort of like civilians? You can't. All I would say is I had a really wonderful, deep time in India. And it's sort of like I keep it in the treasure of my heart. Now, of course, with students and with the podcast, I explain it because it's joyful and they're sort of on the path as well. But to people, my neighbors or my, people that are not sort of on the path, I just sort of keep it quiet. It's like, I had a really great time. It's like my family, even my family members, like my brothers and sisters. Why do you go every time? Why do you go to India every time? Why don't you just go somewhere else? Or I was just like, it's a special place. We can go, it's a special place. People really want to go there. I can't share that part of my life with them. And it's okay. Also, it's okay. And if people want to know, then I tell them. But I feel like to the degree I tell them, they can't get it. They think I'm crazy. I'll never be able to fully explain what's going on anyway. And then we went up to the altar. We put a little sweet water in our hands. We drank that water. Then we got a flower garland and we threw a flower garland at the altar. And, they gave us the pakora from the Lord's plate. No one gets that. The Lord's plate. What? You can't explain this. You can't explain this. That's my answer. Keep it private in the treasure of your heart. Say, I have a very special, deep. And you know what? If you really want to share it because you think it's valuable, and a lot of times we do want to share something we think is valuable, share it by your personal transformation. And for people like yourselves, you guys are very high caliber people, but sometimes people come back in such a situation and their taste, that high taste, gets them a little arrogant. And they come back to their spouse or their family and almost like look down at them. Like they're so unenlightened. These guys, I'm not sweating these guys, but that's something to be careful about. If you really want to impress people with your higher taste, then you have to act like a higher caliber being. And then your behavior is impressive. And they really start becoming seriously inquired. Like, what happened? You seem different, Does that make sense? Thank you. Any more peeps? What?
Linda has a second
What?
question for you.
She's back.
I think it might involve the cap to the cream.
What's that?
Might involve the cap to the cream and where that went.
No.
No,
that
ask
wasn't
about the cap to the cream.
okay.
Okay. So my second question is this. When you get good at, I shouldn't say when you get good, when you've been practicing bhakti and you start to become more detached and you feel less fulfilled by material things that you felt very fulfilled by before, and you feel a pull to make a change, how do you know when the right time to make that change is?
Stay in the mix here. What the hell are you talking about? Like, let's get explicit examples, because that could be anything. Change your career, leave your husband. Like, what are we talking about? Like give up drinking beer on weekends. What are you talking about?
Okay. So specifically, I'm talking about career.
Okay.
So I've had a long career in a specific area.
Why don't you explain your career so they know what, you don't have to give a whole bio. Just tell briefly what you do.
Yeah. So I'm an executive for a technology company, and I've been in technology for 30 years. I love leadership because of the people. And over the last year, as I've kind of become, really addicted to wisdom of the sages and bhakti, I have felt less fulfilled by status and title and things like that. And I still love the connection to the people, but I feel like I want to do something that's more in service to spirit. But I don't know what the right timing for that is. So
that's
I'm trying to figure that out.
That's a great question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Isn't it interesting? There's a whole thing with status and title, and you're the vice president. You're a vice president. She's a vice president. not of the United States, but of something, something important, something important. Technology, a big technology company, maybe the biggest. So here's a person who's, intellectually very powerful. She commands respect. She has many, many people working under her.
500 people. Is that right?
500 people working under her. So she's feeling like, okay, I'm losing a taste. Who cares that I'm the VP? Who cares that, they give me a company car, company phone, give me titles, fly me here and there, wine me and dime. Who cares about all that stuff? I'm actually getting some other more subtle happiness in my spiritual life. When do I unplug? Do I unplug? I actually enjoy leading, right? Because she's she's good at it, but she feels like, what's it all about? Why am I giving my energy, my thoughts, my words, my intellect, just to make a bunch of 1% and stock shareholders richer? Why am I doing that? Just so I get richer? What's the end game here? Is this close? The interesting thing is, whether it's Microsoft or Apple or whatever big company you work for, there's other organizations that need those minds. Your mind, your intelligence, your words, your effort, there's services towards humanity that you could plug right into. You could unplug and plug right into. Opening ashrams that change people's heart and life. Opening food distribution centers, distributing prasad to the needy, building schools, stuff like that. That needs great intelligence. And I'm sure you'd be good at a lot of those things. And it would give you a deeper purpose, perhaps. When to unplug, that's another thing. Now, you've been on a spiritual trajectory for a long time, 25 years probably. And after you got into Wisdom of Sages from hearing me on the Rich Roll podcast. And so since then, that was whatever, a year and a half ago. Yeah. And so you've been sort of on your bhakti path. With you personally, and we talked about this on the mountain, I would say get much more steady in your bhakti path. And you're enjoying what you're doing. People appreciate your transformation. People in the workplace will inquire from you, and they'll say, oh, what are you into? You could be even influential within that workplace. If you really want to unplug and plug back into something else, there's so many incredible things you could do to the world. And it takes, I know people who do massive amounts of, we have Rachel who works for Wisdom of the Sages. She manages my life and she's managing our farm now. And she also had a very big federal job for the federal government. I can't manage my own luggage. You know what I mean? So getting people like that in my life, but I'm an explosive ball of energy. So if you take those two things together and you got an explosive ball of energy who needs to be harnessed and managed, so many nice things can be done. So when a person like yourself works on a mission with other people who are very focused, and you dig deep and you talk to people who are your teachers or your mentors, that's whenever I do something in this world, I consult with mentors. What do you think about this? Here's what I'm thinking. And they give me good advice and they try to steer me. And because we subsist in bhakti by getting the blessings of our teachers. And they say, that's a good path for me. And they encourage us forward, or we humbly say, how could I tweak this? How could I make this better? What do you think about this? Please give me your honest answer. And do you think, is it time now? Do you think it's a good time to step away? Rachel, when she did that for Wisdom of the Sages, I never thought Raghunath Swami was going to give her blessings to walk away from her career. And he said, actually, because we've seen people make fanatical choices of giving up something incredibly stable and just, now I want to live in an ashram and sweep the floors. But you don't have to be in an ashram sweeping floors to do great service to Krishna. Krishna also needs people to create huge projects for the benefit of thousands of people that change the hearts, of lots of people out there. How was that? Was that a reasonable answer? Helpful? Okay. Keep going straight, further your bhakti, and it's going to become more and more evident. Harry Bull. But I think people are at different stages with that. Some people are like, I've had it up to here. I'm over it. And some people, they need the mental security of working for some big company to feel like and they just want to add some bhakti to their life. But there gets to sometimes they get to a stage in people's lives like, no interest whatsoever. So it really depends on the individual as well.
Good answer.
How we do? Thanks, Mara.
Yeah.
How we doing for time, Mara?
We're good. We still have almost 15 more minutes.
Anybody notice Mara's transformed back into her previous incarnation of Malibu, Mara? She's back.
All right. The next question's from Jake, who's from Arizona, but just moved to Texas.
Jake. We love Jake on this trip. He's a very sweet guy. He's the new young blood on board. Come on, closer to the microphone. Hi, Jake.
Hello, everyone.
Get closer in there, Jake. Good.
Okay. I have a not safe for work question, but hopefully safe for podcast question. I want to know about what does Bhakti view about sex? Many different spirituality and religion has very strong opinions about sex. I mean, it's definitely part of the human nature, how you connect with people. But what does Bhakti speak to that?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Bhakti and sex. Bhakti and sex. It's on the.
Let's talk about sex, maybe.
Let's talk about sex. This is good for ratings. With any of the appetites of the body, it's normal that when we have a body, there'll be an appetite for it. But I think it's safe to say, especially growing up in the Western world, but truthfully any world, there's something sad when the appetite controls the intelligence. And we might have been in a situation where we said, why did I rush into this? Anybody ever say that? It's generally people don't say, I'm glad we rushed into an intimate sexual relationship. Generally it's right. So when the appetite starts to control the intelligence, that becomes a problem. And that appetite could be eating as well, by the way, when we start to control our intelligence. So, and very often we find we've got to be very careful with, especially a sexual appetite, because something like sex can be very addictive. And if it's at the forefront, here's a deeper way to understand it. If it's at the forefront of our mind, it becomes very possessive of our intelligence. We start developing a sexual intelligence where everything we see is, how can I have sex with him or her or him